Right, we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the tNb Gaming Podcast on a Saturday night. How about that, eh? Yeah. One-off special this week. We are broadcasting live from the Gaming Pantry and around the UK. Thank you very much for tuning in and joining us this evening. Hope you're all well. Yeah, I'm not sure how many people are going to turn up tonight. It's interesting to do a Saturday stream for a change. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, yeah, good to have you here tonight. Today, whether you're watching or listening to this, we're going to be talking about really old stuff tonight. And I'm not just talking about the panel. We're going to be talking about 8 and 16-bit micros. Yes, we're going right back to that starting point where certainly people of my generation will remember the joys of loading games, which used to take forever to load or wouldn't be instant and things like that. So we've got a really good panel tonight. They're going to be arriving and dropping in as and when. I can just see somebody's just arrived. One of our panelists is going to be a little bit later on the scene, hopefully the second part of the programme anyway. And of course, we've been talking about all the things that we do, like the games we've been playing, etc. And we'll bring in the panel in. Let's have a quick whiz through who's in the chat. I can see we've got quite a few people already. Big Game Al's here for the 16-bit. That's good. That's good, Al. Billy's here. Cast Strength Gamer. Retro Claire is here. Tom's here as well. Hi, Tom. Hope you're okay. Dana says, can I have the Fall Guys code, please? Yes. Anybody who's tuned in expecting to see me doing the Fall Guys stream tonight, many apologies. This is the other thing that I do every now and again. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be doing Fall Guys again next Saturday, but you'll have to put up with my inane chatter. Mind you do put up with my inane chatter on Fall Guys anyway. So there we go. Al said, I hope some people have turned up, or it just be you talking for 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah, that's it basically. No one wants to sit here and listen to that, do you? Retrodome Music, great to see you on Saturday. Yeah, hope you're well. Nice to see you here again. Keith's here. This is what you call Saturday night entertainment. I don't know that they were running doing a repeat of the Generation game on tonight on BBC4, which I was rather disappointed to see that I wasn't going to be able to watch that. I haven't recorded it. Trev's here. Good to see you, Trev. Rach is here as well, 8-bit Rach. Bugging me, I'm here on time for a change. And on a different night as well. We've confused you by giving you a different night, and you turned up on time on the day I've moved it to as well. I think that deserves some sort of award, Rach. But good to see you here as well. I know that certainly this subject will be interesting for you as well. Certainly subject close to your heart. Yeah, great to see everybody here. So brilliant. Right, let's bring the panel in because time is marching. We have a lot to get through today. Now, my first guest. This is right up. Well, actually, he was the one who suggested that this would be the subject he wanted to come on and talk about. And I think when you see who it is, you'll completely understand. Somebody who is an absolute 8-bit nut and also 16-bit crazy as well. Best way to describe him. Known this guy for a long time. Really pleased to have him on as well. It is Paul Retrobase. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Russ. Absolutely buzzing to have made it on the tNb. I feel like my YouTube journey is complete. I've watched this for a very, very long time, since before I was even doing the YouTube thing. So yeah, happy to be on, mate, and looking forward to talking about some 8 and 16-bit micros tonight.
Well, this is right up your street, isn't it? I mean, you know, you're one of these people who, because we'll get to this a bit later on, but I mean, as a term of background, that the whole 8 and 16-bit thing, which is really having a resurgence at the moment. We've spoken about this on our respective channels and groups and whatever. So it's a really fascinating time to talk about it, isn't it? Especially with all the homebrew stuff, which again, I don't want to get too much into now and get into that later. But I know you and a number of others are really very much into that sort of thing as well, which might be, for people just tuning into this, something I've never heard of before.
Well, like for me, obviously, I've only got nostalgia for certain systems. So with things like the Spectrum, which I love the Spectrum, I thought I'd put this on tonight in honor of me love for other systems. I'm not just a Commodore, you know, although it is the best. But anyway, I'm sure we'll get onto that later. But like for the Spectrum, like I've got no nostalgia for it. So homebrew has been my key to playing on the ZX Spectrum, because I'm just amazed by the games I used to see at my friend's house when I was like, 10 years old, to what I see now that we can play on the Spectrum. It's just worlds apart. I mean, there was good software back then, but I just think they're really pushing the system. So I think through homebrew was where my love for the Spectrum and the Amstrad came from. 100%.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Well, I also know you're very much an Amiga man as well at heart. So
Yeah,
we'll get on. We'll get onto that as well because that's very much my area. But now I can see you've got your trademark flagon of mead there, or wine, I suppose it is.
What, sorry?
Your flagon of wine.
Oh yes,
yes.
I mean, it's fairly close to a wine glass. And it saves walking back into the shed, walking back into the kitchen to get refills. So yeah, it's always funny when I say it to work. They're like, "Oh, you look a bit ropey this morning." I was like, "I only had a glass of wine last night."
And he realised how big the glass is.
Well, they don't, because they don't watch me.
Yeah, if they knew it was like a litre glass full of wine, then they'd probably be thinking something slightly differently. Yeah, but no. Anyway, mate, fantastic to have you on finally, and
Glad to be here.
We'll get chatting and talking. Let's go through some of these comments. Dana says the Four Guys is not okay this Saturday. What BS? Who cooked this up? I don't know. Talk to somebody who talk to Al. It's Al's fault anyway. Rach says she had a reminder yesterday and tuned in at 8 p.m. yesterday evening. Think it was then. Oh, okay. So you were a day early. Oh, that's a good start. I think he always turned a day early for the podcast, but there we go. Gavin's here, Snoopy Man 79. Callum's here, Retro Ghetto. Good evening. All been listening to a lot of your podcasts lately, Bear. Whilst doing long days and late nights working in the game room, appreciate the great content. I hope you weren't using any heavy machinery, because I always say don't listen to anything I do while operating heavy machinery, because it will send you to sleep. But no, I appreciate the comment, mate. Thank you very much indeed.
It's really coming on nice as well. If anyone's seen the videos of Callum's games room, well gel.
Oh dear. yeah. I know. Yeah, it's a bit of a come down from this one. Dana says Sinclair was a great company once Lord Sugar took over. There we go. Got the sharp stick out, poking people with it. We'll cover that a bit later. Before I bring in my next guest, Si's here, Ginger Hippie Gaming. Good to see you here, Si. Thanks so much for tuning in. Right, our next guest, we've had him on before, and it seemed really, really unfair not to bring him on tonight because it's, again, a subject close to his heart as well. He is the YouTuber of the year. He did a fantastic job with that competition. Your friend of mine, it is Generation Pixel. Stu, good evening.
Hello, Ross. Good evening. Pleasure to be back on. This is probably the third or maybe fourth time.
I think it's the third time. I'm not keeping score or anything, but I think it's your third time on.
Starting to feel like the ginger step kid of the tNb at the moment, but hey. But it's
I'm a ginger.
to be honest.
Oh, I was.
That's why you're wearing the hat, and that's it.
Secret's out. That's it.
and Jess, you probably can't do an 8-bit without bringing on the oldest YouTubers out there. So yeah, I've got to be here.
Yeah, we're sitting here with a combined age of 100 and something or other. I expect. Wait till I bring the next one in. That'll go to 300 and something or other. But, oh, he's not turned off. Then he's still sitting there. Okay, he's going to wait for me to bring him in. So we're doing 8-bit, and obviously you're sat in front of a wall of PlayStation at the moment.
I am sat in front of a wall of PlayStation. But it's not the only thing here. I mean, the 8-bit stuff's down there, and got a couple of PCs here and there. So 8-bit's where I started, like yourself. Well, I know you didn't really start with 8-bit micros, but 8-bit microcomputers definitely where I started.
That's it. I mean, I didn't start there as such, but that was my first proper real experience of a computer in game playing on a computer anyway. So yeah, lovely. Well, we'll get to that, mate. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this. Right, one of my panelists said they're going to be a little bit late tonight, so I'll bring in our fourth member, and again another 8-bit guy. We love having him on. He's the man with the best laugh on YouTube, the best earphones on YouTube. It's Sean at Retro Games Revived.
Are they all nice and straight? Evening, lads.
They are really.
Probably I didn't get to talk to you pre-live chat, but I was gorging on a meat feast pizza, which turned up about quarter. So
you must have wolfed that down. You must have wolfed that down because you were here about 2 minutes after we started.
Just inhaled it.
I never tasted it. Well, his mother and she'll say, "Slow down! Nobody's going to take it off you. They're not going to get a chance."
For those of you wondering what the pizza will look like, we may see it at some point during this broadcast. Given how quickly he's taking it down, but yeah, Great to have you back on again, mate. Everything okay with yourself
Mate,
at the
nice
moment?
to be back.
Yeah. How's your project going?
Slow, but I'll be there tomorrow. Putting another lick of paint on it. So, yeah, hopefully I'll really get my teeth into it tomorrow, and I want to get it all coated up, at least, in one coat. For the non-decorators out there, I'm painting my new cabinet red, and red is a horrible colour to. Oh no! What's that? Can you
That
still
Peter's
hear
on the
me?
way.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Yeah.
He's secretly eating pizza right now, isn't he? He's like,
Yeah.
Oh dear me. Let me try again.
Oh,
there we are.
there we go. Yeah.
I have no idea what happened there. But yeah,
It's that button which says, "Do you want to stop cam?" If you click yes, that's what happens. So. Anyway, mate, great to have you on. As always, we'll get some more information out you shortly. Let's go back to the comments. Al says my games room is looking good. There's nothing left in it. Yeah, he's selling a few bits off from there. We are.
Yeah, I've seen he's been selling quite a bit, hasn't he?
He has indeed. He has. Chuck that pixel pal over the top rope. If anybody saw Pompey Games Room video last night, or the one he's put up again this morning, I think it is. There's a bit of a social media Royal Rumble going on. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
go and check out Pompey Games Room. Recommend you all do that, and you'll see what we're talking about. There's an event coming up in January. There's a few of us. There's a few of us already involved. I'm definitely going to be throwing my hat into the ring on that one for sure. So, yes, YouTube bragging rights. Yeah, coming from the guy with the wall of weed. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. That's it. There we go. Speaking of Pompey Games Room, Sean's in. Hello, Sean. Hope you're okay. How many bottles of wine have you had today, Paul?
I've still got quite a bit to go there. You probably can't see that, but we're only up to about here. So, it's been a good boy. I am on call, so I can't get absolutely blazing, so just one bottle of wine.
Sean says, hi, I think Tootie's name might now stick, sadly. Yeah, I guess that was a really strange video last night. Sean 100% when to make his glass of gin then. That's it. You're on call, obviously, Sean. And I think Al's posted the link to Sean's Pompey Game Rooms video. So I'll leave that on there for the moment for people to go have a quick look or make a note. Actually, make a note. Go and have a look at it afterwards. Because I'd like to watch this for now, if that's okay. That's why we're all here. Right, so like I said, we got one of our panelists going to be a little bit late tonight, so we'll move straight on to what we always do. Oh dear me, it's been a long week. Paul, any games that you've been playing recently, lately, that you'd like to share with us and recommend, etc.?
Well, there's a few. Well, there's 4. Well, 5. But we'll stick it down to 4. But
First one, as you like, yeah.
It's nothing to do really with 8-bit micros or anything like that. Well, I've been playing a little bit of Xenocrisis on the Evercade. Now, I've simply been playing this because, well, the Evercade's going for sale. I'm done with it. I can find a better solution for what I want to play, which is like 8 and 16-bit, like, mobile gaming. I don't feel the Evercade actually puts the versions of games on the cartridges that you actually want. So I'm done with that. But I thought I'd give this a quick blast this week because out of all the games I played on there, the Xenocrisis is probably my favourite one. So I was just giving that one last go before it gets binned off.
Because just for people who aren't aware, that got a physical release on the Mega Drive as well, didn't it? I think
that's right, but I think it's quite an expensive one to get. I'm not 100%, and I'm not sure it probably plays on the VS, but some games like Splatterhouse, for instance, you can't play it on the VS. So
right.
I got rid of the VS. I was like, that's no good. I can't. Why is the cartridge that I can't play? So that got binned. And then with Codemasters and some of the selection of games they put on there, Bitmap, they put on SNES versions rather than the Amiga versions, and I'm just done with it. So,
do you know? I think what needs to be done at some point in the future will be an Evercade stream, as to get people on who like it and don't like it. Because at the moment, it started off as one of those things which I think people weren't particularly interested in. then people got into it, and everybody started getting them, and now people are dumping them on them, out of the way.
That's pretty much my exact experience. I was like, oh, what's this Evercade? I thought, oh, yeah, that looks okay. Got on board with it, enjoyed it, within reason. And then when these games were coming out that I was really looking forward to, that I loved on the Amiga, total disappointment. And I recently done a video about the Commodore 64. Commodore 64 cartridge. Now, I get why people might think it's great. There is like maybe 2 or 3 games on that I would class as decent, like Impossible Mission, Bruce Lee, things like that. But out of the thousands and thousands of games available for the Commodore 64, to be really lazy and just use the licensing from the C64, like the 64 games that comes on.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I just think they're being lazy and thought, yeah, that'll do. And then we'll just chuck some games on and we'll pump it out and make some cash. For me, that's not good enough, I'm afraid. There's so many good games on there that are not going to get anywhere near the Evercade. That was just, it was already too late by that point. But if it was good, it might have saved it, but it wasn't. So it's gone.
Yeah, I think I left a comment on your video about that, pretty much more or less saying exactly the same thing. And I can see Stu and
100%.
Sean nodding there in agreement, really. So it's a real missed opportunity, that. But
I mean, there's so many people commented on that video saying, you've got the wrong end of the stick. This is going to people. It's going to give it to a broad audience. And I'm like, yeah, but like imagine the gaming experience you could have given them compared to what they're going to get. I'm like,
that's right. Yeah.
People are probably rightly going to say, it's quite an average computer. When I mean, I think eventually they will maybe do a homebrew one, like what they've done with the indie classics. So you might get like a homebrew. We might get a Spectrum. I doubt we'll get an Amstrad, and they might do an Amiga because it's fun stock. So that could be the savior. But then who knows? But for me, I was going to buy like a new handheld console. Lee Nerdy Geezer was telling me about a couple. But then I was speaking to my friend Danny from Press Start Gaming, and he's like, "Oh, have you got a PSP?" And I'm like, "I've actually got 2. There's one on the box just up there." And he's like, "Mate, you can hack that and put on anything you want up to PS1." And I was like, "Well, I only want 8-bit, 16-bit. I'm happy with that. That's all I'm interested in." So,
yeah, there's definitely a subject there for discussion. I think certainly.
100%.
Much more detail anyway. So
a good old moan about that.
That's it. Go on. What else you got, Paul? What else you got?
Next is this. You'll probably hear. You'll probably get sick of me mentioning this pretty soon. But this is Redshift on the ZX Spectrum, and no word of lie, this is probably one of the best shooters I have ever played, and I just can't fault this game. It's 7 or 8 quid. It's hugely addictive. It's got real good replay value. Graphics are great. The music's great. It's responsive. It's addictive.
What more can you say?
I don't know what else I can buy this game. There is also a free download. You can get it through Bitmapsoft, but the people who originally made it in 2019, if you don't want a physical version, you can download it for free. And shameless plug time, I'm going to be doing like a high score challenge, and this is going to be the game that we're going to start the high score challenge on. So if anyone needs a copy of it, I can send them it. It's the free one that's legally available to be downloaded. So I'm not doing anything naughty here. All you need is an emulator or real hardware, anything like that, and you can join in. The first one's going to be for charity as well, for Crohn's disease. So
excellent.
This is
always good to hear that. Yep, lovely.
So yeah, I've been playing a lot of that because you've probably seen my gaming and you know that I need to practice.
we're always first to knock ourselves when we're playing games, aren't we? We always say we're always terrible at them, but yeah.
And
you mentioned that a lot.
Because it's true. I can't argue it. And then moving on, I've been playing quite a bit of Amiga recently. Now, it's probably due to the Amiga Mini, but it's really rekindled me kind of love for the Amiga, like actual physical games as well. So I've been buying some physical games, and there was a couple that I've been after for a while. I was lucky enough to get this the absolute classic Monkey Island 2, which is just it's just such a good game. I can't decide whether I prefer this one to the original. The original's got more nostalgia. I didn't play this one as much back in the day, but I got a chance to get hold of one of these, so I took it with both hands. I'd love an original Monkey Island 1, but they're quite expensive. So I'm not sure if many people have played Monkey Island 2, but I've been giving that a blast. And the last game that I've played this week. Oh, sorry.
With Monkey Island 2, we actually did a reveal in the last podcast. I think there was like 11 discs in there or something like that.
There's a fair few.
That's an hefty thing, isn't it?
I think in this one, not only have we got all the originals, but they've also all been backed up as well. So there's the originals and a set of backups as well. So there's about 20 odd discs in there.
That tops my 11 originals in my last one. I think there's a save game in there as well, so I think I got 12.
I think it cost about £10 just to send through the post.
Made a bloody ton. How to get two people up, we get off the shelf.
The last game is a racing game that I love, but so many people just really don't like this game. To be fair, it wasn't really rated that well back in the day either, but I like it. I think it was on, I'm pretty sure it was on at least the Mega Drive, probably the SNES, but it's Power Drive. I think this is a really, really cool game. I really like it. I just think the graphics are so cool. You've got like the little minis and stuff like that on there.
I remember seeing it at the time, but I never played it.
I think it's definitely worth a blast. I'm not particularly good at racing games, but I do like the isometric, like Ivan Man Stewart, Skid Marks, Power Drive. I do like that type of view with the racing. Like, but that's obviously the whole track. It's like it kind of moves along with the car.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit harder. But yeah, I always liked it. But I got a bit of grief when I was telling people I've been playing that this week. They were like, "Why are you playing that game?" And I'm like, because nostalgia means I wear these spectacles where it just looks amazing. It doesn't matter how much people slag it off. In here, it's just the best. It's just a really good isometric racing game. So
yeah, you're absolutely right, and I agree with the sentiment on that one. So we're probably guilty of it. I mean, how did it compare favourably to how you remember it?
Yes and no. Like I still love the graphics. Like in my head, there was still good graphics, even though obviously not. But I remember back in the day, like I was like really impressed with the graphics and how how it looked and how it sounded. So like I've still got those feelings towards it. But however, because I've got like another 25 years of gaming experience now, things age. I'd probably rate it as, if I took the nostalgia away, 5 or 6 out of 10. But with the nostalgia, it's an 8 out of 10 all day. It really is. It's just silly how it does it to you,
That's it. That's how it's going to be. Al mentioned it's a great racer, so he also remembers it from before.
I've never played it on the consoles though, so I'd be interested to know. Well, I think it was on the consoles. I'm not even 100% it was, but I'm sure I remember someone mentioned it was on the Mega Drive, so maybe it was.
I think it was. I think it was on the Mega Drive. You were right. Right. Thanks, Paul, for that. We'll move on. Just going to go quickly through some of the comments. I can see Addy Sneaker Freaks here. Steve Xeno Crisis got that on my Mega Drive Mini. Al says Stu only plays RPGs. Might as well skip him. And Sean's only plays COD. Going back to the Evercade, Keith says the Evercade got mediocre SNES ports, a great bitmap brother Amiga titles, which is what Paul said earlier.
Exactly.
Will the Evercade represent the browns and greys, the Commodore 64 well? Yeah, but I think they might just get it right.
I bet the sound doesn't sound as good though. I bet the music is still, because you just can't replicate it.
That's it. Mark said, check my calendar, I got so confused I saw this pop up in my feed. Yeah, we caught a few people out tonight by the looks of it. 17 watching, only 6 likes, sorted out, or the bear gets it. Yep, please try and sort it out, or else I am going to get it. And Al's just like the video.
When you see someone get it, at my end, that means you're getting, you're getting it.
Yeah. Well, might be good. It could be. There could be a surprise coming through that door at any point.
Mrs. Bear?
Yeah. It could be Mrs. Bear. It could be somebody with a gun or a bat. I don't know. We'll have to see, won't we? Mark says Dominic Diamond is certainly doing the tube round over the last few months. I
Yes,
don't see the similarity myself.
Between
There we
who?
go.
Who looks like Dominic Diamond? Stu.
I was on about Sean. I was on about Sean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah,
definitely this guy.
Yeah. Gavin Grandad's here. Hope you're okay, Chris. Good to see you in the chat.
Good to see you, Chris.
Rach says, I love it when you find a game that makes you feel like you're the only person who loves it. Yeah, that's it. Al says Mega Drive and Game Gear for the Power Drive.
Good. I'm surprised it was on the Game Gear because, like, I mean, that's more of an 8-bit machine, isn't it? Really, it's a more like the Master System or Master System, whichever way you want to say that. But yeah, I didn't know it was on the Game Gear. I would like this. I'd like to give that a go.
Yeah. Rafe now doesn't know if she's better off liking the stream or disliking it. Okay, will be interesting.
You can't see dislikes anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
You see them afterwards. They pop up.
Oh, do you?
You look at your YouTube content. It says percentages, and then you look at your percentage. It says 100%, and then for some reason you've got less than 100%. You're thinking, why have I got less than 100%? And there's always one person who keeps sticking the thumb down, or in my case, 15. So it's all right.
It's that long since I've done a video. I can't remember.
It's all bollocks anyway. So that's what it is. Sean looks like Dominic Diamond. Stu sounds like him. Keith thought he was Dominic's doppelganger. I don't think so, somehow, Keith. I don't know. I think much similarity there. Al says it's like £800 on a Game Gear Power Drive. So you won't be buying that anytime soon, will you, Paul?
No.
And I haven't got like an EverDrive thing for the Game Gear. I've got one for the Lynx, which is a cracking piece of kit. It really is, but yeah, I don't know if there is one for the Game Gear. So I'll be giving that one a miss.
Very, very quickly before I come to Stu, Dane says, I'd like to see the person who Sean's headphones fit. I'm thinking it's either John Merrick or Rocky Dennis. Right, Stu. What
a small head, that's all.
Oh, it's perception, is it? Oh, is it like you got tiny head and big headphones?
It's have a nickname, P-Head, who used to get called over.
So actually, this headset I'm wearing would look really, really giant on you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And if I wore those headphones, they'd look like really, really small.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. You can buy Peugeot 206 for the price of that game. Right. Anyway, Stu, what have you been playing?
Well, Al's only partially right. I have been playing obviously RPG games because that's what I do, and the game that's been taking up most of my time at the moment is Final Fantasy VIII. This is my absolute nemesis. I've hated this game since launch, and I've decided this month it's coming off the backlog. I'm completing it. Now, hopefully by tomorrow it'll be done. I'm on the last boss, and it's done, and I never have to play this shambles of a Final Fantasy game again.
Is it that bad? Like, what is it like? Do you think it's that bad, or like what you're saying?
I mean, it's one of those games that split down the community that like Final Fantasy. If you like Final Fantasy VII, you're not going to like Final Fantasy VIII, and vice versa. Different mechanics in it. There's different ways. You don't grind in this game, and for anyone who doesn't play an RPG, grinding means fighting multiple battles over and over again to get stronger.
Aye.
Whereas in this game, you have to grind in the one battle. If you level up, so do your enemies. They level up at the same pace, so it makes no difference to the game. And I've always hated it for that. But that's going to be off the backlog. That's going to be gone by tomorrow, and I'll be glad never to pick that game up again. Now, as I said, he was only half right, but sort of right, because I've also been playing this absolute gem of a game, which is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Ooh. It's one of the Borderland games, so first-person shooter, but it's set within a Dungeons and Dragons game. So it's a sort of blend of FPS and RPG. So he's kind of half right there. I don't stray too far away for the RPGs, and this one here it's fantastic. The graphics are so very cool. I mean, if you like your fantasy stuff, you're going to love this game. It's all dragons and orcs and what have you, but in a first-person shooter that moves on to a game board. So rather than having an overworld, you're on a game board like you would be if you were playing Dungeons and Dragons yourself, and you move your tiny little character from zone to zone, and little events can happen in there as well. So sort of FPS, sort of RPG. And the last one, and this is the one that took me by surprise, was this boy here. Now this is Road Trip Adventure. This is something that I've just stumbled on. I have walked past this game for decades because I thought it was an arcade racer. What I didn't know, it's an arcade racer RPG. So you play as a little car that drives about in its open world, and you get quests off of the other little cars. Yeah, that's the boy.
Got it as well.
I didn't even know that genre existed. Like, no idea.
Neither did I. It just completely took me by surprise. And when I found out that this was RPG and arcade racer, it's not good. I'm going to put that out there right now. It's not good. The driving's not great. The RPG elements aren't great. But just the fact that this came out when it did, it was ahead of its time. It's kind of like Disney Pixar Cars in game form before Disney had Pixar Cars. So, it's definitely worth a little play. It's not expensive, but yeah, go for it.
No, it can't be that expensive because I've got it. But I mean,
no, it's not expensive at all.
Yeah, you say it's no good though.
The enjoyment I got out of it was the fact that it was an RPG and you're a car and your battling system is basically racing, arcade racing. So you might enjoy the arcade racing
I
and
might
upgrading your car. And I enjoyed going through the quests, finding, a lost car or, an apple for another car that wants an apple and all that nonsense that goes with RPGs. But just mind-blowing the games that are out there.
Apples?
I mean, that's the PlayStation 2 era for you, though. I mean, the PlayStation 2 era really did throw out everything just to see what would stick. So it's a shame we don't see more like that these days.
Christ, if I thought cars ran on apples, I'd have bought loads of them years ago and saving more bloody petrol and diesel. That's been sitting on my shelf for ages, but I had no idea what it was. I must admit, my hopes weren't high when it's a play it game, which is usually the signs, the seal of mediocrity. But generally, I don't know. That's an interesting concept, Stu. I think it's probably worth it. Yeah. If I don't like it, I don't like it. But that's the part of the fun of it, isn't it? Okay, lovely, mate. Thank you for sharing those with us. Just whiz through the comment. Just on the subject of Power Drive, very, very quickly, Paul. £1,200 CEX Power Drive, isn't that? £1,200 in mint condition on the game.
Do you get any sort of staff discount or?
Yeah, £1,100.
No. Not that much.
That's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
Anyway,
yeah,
that's mental.
Wow, my entire collection.
Not far off.
First Final Fantasy with voices, says Mark. Nate disagrees with you, Stuart. Final Fantasy 8 and 7 are good. You are wrong. Rachel of Final Fantasy 8 best. She's playing Final Fantasy 10 and just want to kick it in the face. Oh dear. That's Final Fantasy 10 deserves to be kicked in the balls and the face. Interesting, isn't it? There we go. Retro Ram Liam's here. Hey up me ducks. You're okay, mate. Good to see you. Keith here. Final Fantasy 7 favourite JRPG of all time, but didn't mind Final Fantasy 8 too much. Al says, Stu, that's Gadget Racers. I don't know. That one, I thought it was one of those expensive ones, wasn't it? Anyway, right. Sean, anything you'd like to recommend apart from the usual?
Well, they were 50% right with Stu. They were 100% right with me. I've been playing it. It really is cool. I've been having a few games with Dana as well. He's joined me a couple of times, and we've had a good laugh. And that's about it. That's all I can really say. There's no new really that's come to Warzone. We've had a mid-season update, but there's really nothing that spectacularly new. No of interest to mention. So Yeah, the only thing I have played, but I mean, I give it maybe 2 or 3 tries because I've just recently set up my Amiga Mini in my lockup. And I just put one game on just to test it out, and that was Project X.
That's a shooter, isn't it?
Is that a Team 17 game?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, shooter,
Yes, it is,
yeah. Quite all right. First time I've ever played it, so I'm not normally that good on shooters.
It's meant to be very hard from what I remember back in the day.
It started off fairly simple for me, but yeah, if it gets ridiculously hard, then I'm done for on that game because I can't do shooters very well. So, but yeah, that is about it. I mean, I want to give Simon the Sorcerer a go.
Class game
when I get a chance. So,
if you can, definitely go for the play the CD32 version, and it's got Chris Barry, Rimmer.
Yeah.
It's got the voice, so
the narration.
And download the CD32 version, because it's just.
I may have that because Pete Fighter did me a USB stick with, loads of Amiga games on. I haven't had a chance to go through them yet. But yeah, it may well have put that on for me as well. So I'll give that one a go.
If not, mate, I'll send you a link or something like that, and you can.
Yeah.
Because it'll be definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Right.
Yep.
I'll go to the comments, and I can see our last panelist has arrived, so I'll bring him in a second. Dana's listed his favourite Final Fantasy games. That's it. What's next? A Fleshlight-based JRPG. Plenty of grinding in that. Game Zone Bird Room is here. Congratulations, Mr. Bear, on over 800 subs. Yes, thank you very much, mate. Yeah, went past 800 last week, I think it was. It stayed over 800, so I mean, I ain't done anything wrong this week. I've uploaded 2 videos. Usually they start falling off and uploaded videos, so no, but thank you for anybody who has joined recently.
Not a chance, mate. One of them was a hit squad video, so that's always going to do well, right? It's
done all right, that one. It's done all right. I thought they might.
The comment was there. When I was saying the other day, my comment had gone, and then you replied with the day. I was like, but when I was looking for it, I swear it wasn't there.
It was your comment on the other video that disappeared.
I don't know why. I think usually swears.
No, well, it's one of those. Just keeps happening, doesn't it? Daniel says you can't drive for shit, Sean. Between you and Al, you make Maureen from driving school look like Nigel Mansell. Maureen from driving school. There's an up-to-date reference for the kids there.
Was she the one in the field like about 14 times or something?
Yeah. Anybody who's like under the age of 30, there was a program years ago about learning to drive, and this woman failed the driving test so many times it was ridiculous, and she even released a single. If I remember correctly, she was that famous. She released a single. Don't go and track it down.
Danester's actually referencing a moment on COD where we got this armoured truck and I was driving it about. Danester went armoured to it, and I just kept getting caught on rocks. I'm a bad driver.
Russ is going for full hit squad. No, I'm not. Teasing me about that.
Don't do it.
But what it is, they're all magnetised, this postcode. They seem to be dragging themselves in. And I just seem to be just picking them up as there we go. So, yeah. He said, Will Smith has only one hit squad title, that being Chris Rock. Very good. Ray says, I remember Maureen and her husband used to have blazing rows in the car. Yeah, he was teaching her to drive, wasn't he? That's right. Yeah. It's all coming back to me, and I said that therapy again.
There's no way I could teach a family member how to. I get annoyed. Like by the time I get to the end of my street, I'm already pissed off when I'm driving. I would be the worst driving instructor ever. I have zero patience when I'm on the roads. But when people say to me, "Oh yeah, I enjoy driving," and I'm like, "Are you mad?" Like.
No. Saving Private Hughes. There we go. Gaming Guys is here. Yep, very well. Hope you're okay, my friend. Good to see you here. Right, let's bring in our last panelist. Do you want to go with what we talked about before, Paul, when we bring him in?
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. It is Our final panelist of the evening, your friend of mine. This is Nath Retro 1 is here.
Evening all.
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nate.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. You may have realised it. Yes, there we go. Yeah, it was Nate's birthday this week. That's probably traumatised him for the rest of his life, and indeed traumatised most of YouTube by the sound of it. Sounds like dinner time was late at the dog's home. Yeah. Sounds like dinner time was late at the dog's home. How are you, mate? Anyway, all right?
Very good, thank you. That was really unexpected, that call. So thank you all.
Oh dear, mate. Oh, I'm glad you made it, mate. Anyway, that's good.
Yeah,
Just give you a second to compose yourself.
Recover.
So, yeah,
I'm good.
recover. Danny says he's going for a full set of hits, quads under £3 and we under £1,000. I've got most of them. Martin from the Hobby Lodge is here. Hope you're okay, Martin. Good to see you. Rach says my dad tried to teach. I nearly went into some railings. He'd undone his seatbelt, ready to jump out. Don't know why he bothered. The railings were on his size. He wouldn't have got the door.
Sounds like a carry-on.
Oh dear! I tell you, but Rach has some of the best stories. She takes the time to type them in, but they're always brilliant.
I like how instead of going for like the steering wheel or anything like that, he's diving out the car.
Sean's obviously smashed out of his face. Speaking of singles, that Happy Birthday Christmas #1 written all over it. It's got something written all over it. I wouldn't say it's got Christmas #1, but there we go. Anyway,
Military wives, like the retro boys. It can work.
We've got this in the bag, lads. At the end of the day, they'll feel sorry for us. Come on, they've got it right.
That was amazing.
If they played that over and over again in the Ukraine, that would send the Russians back out again. Right, Nath, as you join us at this time of the podcast, is there anything that you've been playing that you'd like to recommend to us?
I haven't been playing anything. Russ is right, but I would take a moment to talk about the best game ever. It is Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh dear!
That's the best game ever made.
To be fair, 8 isn't the best one, but I just put that in for Stuart because I can't believe the audacity of what I was hearing. Just get it played and finished. No, I haven't really played any games this week. I haven't had a chance. I've been kind of all over the place, but yeah, I might get back on that next week. We shall see. Hopefully.
Do you get anything gaming related for your birthday or not? Just while we're on the subject of that as well.
I did, and I'll probably make a video of it, but I did get a few games.
Okay,
I've got a lot of games, more than I thought when I actually added them up. I'm like, I haven't bought any games in ages, and I realised I had some sent to me, some other bits I picked up. I was like, oh shit, I've actually got quite a few. I'm supposed to be slowing down, but that's the drug for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I won't want you to spoil anything for your upcoming video, mate, because I know
I'll be out in about a month's time, so we'll.
Yeah. It's good time for your next birthday. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. A Christmas special.
Oh dear. Right. Okay. Well, lovely. That's what the panel have been playing or recommending to you. If you play any of those games, let us know about them in the comments below. If you've not come across any
Dana,
games,
I do. Yes.
Do you regret building that cardboard switch thing in the background? I don't. Can we get? I'll just give you the big screen a second. So we're talking over your.
That. He's on about that, which is the
Labo.
It's the backpack for the robot game of Labo, which I got really cheap, and it was a bit of a fun thing. I did with my daughter, so I didn't regret kind of getting it to play with, and actually it's really fun when you play it. However, it's just just an accessory that's really bulky and it's made of cardboard, so it's kind of annoying. So liken it to kind of a racing wheel but made of cardboard. In fact, they have got a racing wheel made of cardboard, so kind of pretty much sums up. They're not bad. They're actually quite well put together, but they're just made of cardboard and getting away. So yeah, there we go. that's my review of Labo. That'll be up on Amazon.
I've got to say, I thought that piano looked dead cool. I really did. When I saw that,
Well, I haven't got the piano one. I've got the to be fair, the robot backpack is pretty cool. You look like a bit of an idiot, like with it. Burn it on live stream. No, because then the whole room would go up, wouldn't it? Like Steve, honestly.
They got some Funko Pops you can chuck on there as well. That'll tick those two boxes at the same time. There we go. Right. Okay. So that's what I've been playing. We've now reached the portion of the I don't know what you call it. This 2-hour segment on YouTube, stream live, where we talk about our subject of the week. And this week we are talking about 8-bit and 16-bit micros, as the request of our guest this week, Paul Retrobase. So Paul, give us the reason why you want to discuss this. You know, keep it short to start with, so we can get other people in, and then we can go in a bit more depth as we go along. But you know, what's your passion for this particular area of gaming and video and computer systems, etc.?
Well, of course, it's fueled by nostalgia. It was where it all started for me. One weekend or during the summer holidays, bye Al. I always remember I was playing football with my friends, you know, like 6 or 7 year olds, something like that, and you know, living in the northeast, the weather's not the best. It started absolutely lashing down, and we went back to my friend Terry McNally's house, and he was like, "Oh, my dad set up the Commodore 64," and I was like, "What's a Commodore 64?" And he's like, "Oh, it's like a computer game sort of thing." And I was like, "Brilliant!" Like we had like this like Pong sort of, you know, like the grandstand thing, which I wasn't into, and my only kind of electronic gaming was it's like the grandstand aliens shooting up thing. I can't remember what it's called now.
Invader, Scramble, Firefox, Astro Wars.
Astro Wars. That was the
I'm glad you said it was Astro Wars. I was running out of tabletops to go through there. That was my last one.
But yeah, I loved Astro Wars, and I was like, okay, we'll give this a shot. And yeah, his dad had set it up, and that I remember waiting for the game to load, which did seem to take an absolute lifetime. But when it did, I heard computerized speech for the first time, and it was Impossible Mission. And I was just absolutely blown away. And the first thing I remember thinking is, like, I need this machine. Like, I need to have one of these. And that afternoon, we played Impossible Mission, International Soccer on the cartridge, which loaded immediately, which totally blew me away. And then I played Platoon, which I thought was absolutely class, like the first level of Platoon, which was as far as I got for probably like at least 2 years. So I never had to experience any of the later levels. It was just, you know, in the jungle shooting Viet Cong and trying to miss tripwires and stuff like that. Yeah, I just thought, wow, this is like, I need one of these machines. So like any good 6 or 7 year old done, I absolutely hammered me parents. I was an only child. I was like, come on, this is what I need. This is what I want. And yeah, eventually end up with the Commodore 64. It could have been any computer. It just happened that my friend Terry had a Commodore 64, so that was the route I went down. But like a lot of people going about the Commodore and the ZX Spectrum and the Playground Wars and stuff like that, but I think it completely differs by area of the UK, because where I remember going to school and I literally knew 2 people that had a Spectrum. Everyone else had Commodore 64s. So, like, I just assumed at the time, because I didn't know any better, that, you know, like, it was all about the Commodore 64, and like, you know, the ZX Spectrum was just like a you know, not a very well selling machine that like virtually no one had, and I was completely wrong. But I just didn't know back then, you know. So how much of a quality machine it was. I think I'd only played a couple of games, and they were like. What's it called? With the egg, Dizzy.
Dizzy, yeah.
With the egg. I thought that Dizzy like was a Spectrum game. Like, I thought it came from the Spectrum. It wasn't until like a few years ago that I actually found out it was from the Amstrad, and then it was ported to the Spectrum from the Amstrad, or at least I think it was. So that's where it all started. And then I moved on to the Amiga, which I had for a long time. I got the Amiga 1200 when it first came out, and I think I pretty much kept that until the PlayStation came out. So I moved on to the PlayStation eventually, but because like a lot of the games I played were like football management, like Championship Manager and things like that. The graphics and stuff didn't really affect me. Like, I wasn't bothered, that it couldn't move polygons around or 3D and stuff like that, because I literally didn't play those games. I played me football manager game, and at the time it was just it was great playing that on the Amiga. So yeah, that's why. Like, nostalgia for me is all about the 64 and the Amiga, and the PlayStation as well. If I'm being honest, I would say the PlayStation definitely fits into that category. Even though obviously by that point I was getting like 16, 17. It was the first console I'd have bought with my own money, and then I kind of left football management games like that behind, and just joined the PlayStation revolution really.
Elsewhere, yep. Okay, lovely. So a few people mentioned, we've had people mention the Amstrad. Steve's mentioned that one. Dainster agrees with him on that one. We got people quoting Impossible Mission.
I only knew one person who had an Amstrad. Oh, sorry, no, two. And one had a green screen, and the other one had colour. Now, I played Harrier Attack, and I absolutely loved that game.
It's a good game.
And I tried to get it on the Commodore 64, and I think there's a few similar ones, but there isn't one the same as that Harrier Attack. And it was also on the Amstrad that I played Emlyn Hughes International Soccer for the first time. And then I found out there was a Commodore 64 version, and I just adored that. It was like International Soccer on the cartridge, but like with all of the added extras, the names, you could change the names, there was more players. It was just,
superb game that.
I've got quite a lot to owe to the Amstrad, and I've always said this, as far as I'm concerned, that I think the Amstrad's got the best colour palette out of all the 8-bits. I love the vibrancy and the different colours that the Amstrad's got. And the keyboard looks really cool as well with different coloured keys. So, but it is massive. It's huge.
It is. The Amstrad outsold the Specky and the C64 from 1985 onwards until the Amiga came along.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, never knew anyone with an Amstrad. A few people had Spectrums. Of course, Rach is a big Amstrad lover. Loves the Amstrad more than life itself. There we go. Stuart, you were, I think, certainly more of a Spectrum kid growing up, weren't you? So, I mean, fond memories of the Spectrum when you were younger?
Absolutely. I mean, been sitting here not talking for so long, I'm drying up. But yeah,
it needs some lubrication.
I think Paul's drank it all.
I'm trying.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, being the same age as Sean down there, it wasn't our first introduction to gaming. Was the 8-bit micro machines. We were fortunate enough to see the early Pongs and Space Invaders and stuff like that before home gaming really became popular. And it was the Atari 2600 that I had my eyes on in what was 1982 or 1981. From that Christmas on was the Atari, and didn't get one. And I've spoke to most of you guys about this before. I got the ZX Spectrum instead, and it was it opened your eyes to a whole new world. The thing about the 8-bit microcomputers that a lot of people don't really think too much about was they had a really important role in the way video games were going to go, because before that you had Atari and then eventually Nintendo, but all their software was in-house, it was tightly controlled. Once the microcomputers come out, it was young guys like ourselves in bedrooms learning how to code and making interesting games. And once that happened, it changed the way games were made. I mean, if you look at the likes of the Oliver twins and everything that come out of Codemasters and the like, all that stuff, it wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for 8-bit micros. Because not only did you play games, they weren't intended for games. I mean,
That's right.
Sir Clive Sinclair is rolling in his grave every time someone's out talking about how they loved the games in the Spectrum. It was a machine to learn how to use a computer. It was simply that. But when we learned how to make games. And you got a big manual with it, and it had lots of different programs in it. You could learn how to code from that. And then when you discovered that you could break into a program and read through that code and change it yourself, you started to see how things were put together in the code. You could make your own games, and so many youngsters did, and it really did change the face of gaming. I mean, look at Rare, Ultimate Player game. Probably one of the biggest developers of our lifetime. And they started off just small kids breaking into computer programs in their bedroom and learning how to code by themselves. Microcomputers had such an important role to play when it came to the development of games. Because if we'd have been stuck with Nintendo and Atari, it would have been just the same. It would have been what Nintendo's got now, very, very bland in-house software. Just an opinion.
Yeah. I agree. I think I said something, similar a few weeks back. If it wasn't for, as you said, Stu, those programmers, those software houses, those developers, and those publishers, putting those games together in initially in their bedrooms, that was the whole point of it, wasn't it? It was people, anybody could do it. You didn't need to be a game, no such thing as games developers. It was simply people who had to program stuff and write programs and put together computer software in their bedrooms and then send them out to people who are publishing it, saying, "Here's a game I've made," and they'll play it and say, "Oh yeah, no, it's either good or bad," and that they publish it from there. I mean, we owe so much to that particular era that, as you quite rightly said, if it wasn't for the 8-bit micros and then onto the 16-bit micros, gaming possibly would look completely different. And that's how I started. I started playing on the 2600, like a lot of people would have done my age. And friends of mine had 8-bit systems, mostly Commodore 64s. There's one person with a Spectrum, and I never saw an Amstrad. But it completely changed how I saw games. And I like Paul, I badgered my parents, and they wouldn't budge, so I never got one. But I played a lot on these 8-bit systems, and then when I did eventually get a micro, it was a 16-bit, and it was the Amiga. And that was just like absolutely mind-blowing. It really was. And then all of a sudden, everybody who was playing on the 8-bits got rid of all those, and they started playing on Amigas and STs, and then obviously you then progress to the consoles from there. But we have an awful lot to that era.
Do you think it'll ever be repeated where you have like bedroom quarters? Because personally, I don't think it will be. Like, I know they've tried to do it with the Switch, where you've got like people making their own games and things like that. But like bedroom coding, I just can't see that happening ever again.
Not
really.
to the degree it happened back in the early 80s.
No.
I mean, because it was the Wild West. It was a new frontier. Everything's locked down now with copyright and the like.
Homebrew. Like, like people can make homebrew, I suppose.
How many companies are doing that though? And I don't think you can say with the quality of the games that they're putting out, and obviously the technology they've got behind them, they're quite the same as the 14-year-old boy in his bedroom hacking away at code and making a game for the first time. I mean, I don't see it. It would be nice. It would be nice if everybody was, given a ZX Spectrum or a Commodore Spectrum because it was easier to code on and teach them how to code. I mean, we did in school in the 80s. We got BBC micros to learn to code on, and you don't see that anymore. Not in schools.
No.
There's an interesting conversation going about colours. Amstrad colours are great when they're not all green, says Claire. Obviously not on the par with the BBC though.
It's just an added extra kick in the teeth, wasn't it? Like, for green screen. I mean, I know if you had a green screen, then you love the green screen because that's what you had. But to know now how amazing the colours were, oh man, that's tough on green screen ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rach went from a VIC-20 with a black and white telly, so my green screen was practically psychedelic.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Claire says, it's amazing how you imagine colours on black and white. They're completely different when you first get to see them in colour. And Rach also says, if you had a drawing program on the VIC-20 where it had all these fancy colours like cyan and magenta, and I thought there were shades of grey for years. Not 50 shades of grey, I hope. Stu's young guys like ourselves will have a pint of what he is drinking. Just referenced that earlier. Nathan, I think I can truthfully say, being the youngest member of the panel this evening.
Yeah.
What are your memories of 8 and 16-bit micros?
So for me, as you say, I've came into this quite late on. I think when I first saw things like the BBCs and the Spectrum, I was about 7, and it quite quickly went on to things like the NES Master System, which are in my area. But looking back on it, BBCs, that was released, probably around the time I was born, into schools, and we had one at our school, and it was just one of these things that a teacher had to kind of turn on for you. It was kept in the main hall, one person on it at a time. They had a turtle thing that they got out once and never used again, where it had a marker pen, and you could program it in to go, forward 50 steps or whatever it was, turn, whatever it was, 90 degrees, repeat that times 4, and it drew a square for you. That was like amazing, wasn't it? Sorry?
It
was a turtle. It was an event, that thing. I think I only saw it once, and I think the teachers got bored of it, but it was really cool. I think, unfortunately, I was too young to kind of get into the coding of it, but looking back at it, I can see what Stuart says about it being kind of the Wild West, because it was just open to everyone. Was that the turtle? Yeah, it was on the BBC. It was a turtle thing. I think I saw one on eBay. It goes for an absolute fortune. And yeah, Granny's Garden. I actually pulled out one of the games they had. I remember this from school, and I tracked it down a few years ago. It's a game called Time Traveller, which is an absolutely dreadful game. I think it asks you a series of questions about history, which are multiple choice, and if you get them right, you get to go into a maze level and work your way through this maze to the end, and then just try and complete the game by scoring points through answering questions and getting through mazes. But for me, that was amazing. And I was one of the kids who had a BBC computer. My dad managed to get one. I don't know how, because they were bloody expensive, I think, at the time. I think it was a second-hand one. Had a floppy disk drive as well. How rare was that? Most things came on cassette. And yeah, it was just about the games for me. I didn't know how to program, but the games were some of them were amazing. Some of them just didn't load. And I didn't have to go through the cassette thing, because that was even longer to load. But I do remember friends having things like Spectrum. There's a guy who lived across the road from me, had a Spectrum. I remember playing Gauntlet on there with him. And I think Gauntlet was an absolute pain in the ass, because you got so far into loading, picked your character, and then had to load again, and then it would crash. And you wouldn't get to play the game anyway. But I was kind of blown away by it, because computers were the new thing. They were not common at all. If you had a friend who had a computer, it's like, wow, this is amazing. Just being able to do that. But I do think that, what Stuart's saying about it was the Wild West then and coding, they do kind of have it today. They have brought computers back into schools, but you're talking the Raspberry Pi and the kind of BBC Micro bit. They did release that a few years ago, which is basically like a Raspberry Pi on a credit card, and it's more powerful than the BBC Model B that we had, by a ridiculous amount. I mean, it obviously would be, but you look at it and think,
When I think of the micro, I'm sure the one person I knew that had one. I'm sure Thrust was on the micro, and I think Thrust was the game we played that a lot. Did you ever have that? Did you have that back in the day, Neil?
No, the games I can remember on the BBC Micro, Pod, although really was that a game? You just had this blob and you told it to blow up and fly and do stuff. Time Traveller. I had a game called Dragon World, which was very much like Granny's Garden. It was the same developer as that. And Granny's Garden as well. That was quite hard for little 7-year-old me to figure out. I had games like Rocket Raid, that was on there. It had its own version of Pac-Man, which was completely ripped off. I can't remember like half of them, to be honest, but yeah, and a lot of them were copied ones as well that I had back then. But yeah, it was all just about the games, really. I didn't know how to develop or anything like that, or code. And although people I know did, I wasn't one of them. I didn't find out till later about that. But I still think that, like, you know, the developing today, people do it, but not everyone wants to do it. Not everyone's clever enough to do it, and everything's moving so rapidly. If you're not really on it, times have moved on in a year, and the game you're developing is just completely out of date, and there's a new system.
Yeah.
Patience as well, I think, must have been a big thing.
It really was. Yeah, I mean, it taught you patience because you put a game in and have to wait 3 minutes for it to load. Chances are it wouldn't load. You have to start again, and you get bored and throw it out the window. Should we play something else, or should we go outside? Unless you had a RAM card, because you said your C64 had a RAM card for some of the games.
That's really one cartridge.
Yeah, I didn't realise they did some of those on the Spectrum. I found some a year back.
Oh, really?
There's a RAM. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
The original 48K had something that plugged in the back, and you could plunk RAM cards into it, which were just like a little chip with a rubber top, and it just pushed in the top. You boot games from that. Ridiculously expensive. That was it. Yeah.
Well, some interesting stuff come out of this. It's asked about a few things in the chat as well, which was a quick look. Claire said, remember they had announced the BBC. Thought it was a point and waste of time back then. Nothing ever used it, and it would never catch on. There we go. We mentioned Granny's Garden. Steve's obviously mentioned that as well. Rachel, a game like, remember like Granny's Garden, where it had puzzles like you had to colour a magic cabbage, but you couldn't have two of the same colours touching for the minute stuff. Yeah. Magic cabbage.
That wasn't Dragon World. You had to find a dragon's egg in Dragon World, but I don't remember a cabbage.
That was Cabbage World, obviously.
Cabbage World.
Yeah. Dave said we had BBC Michael and the Acorn Archimedes. The PCs, once you got used to one at school, they changed. Was it Mrs. Thatcher who put programming on the school curriculum?
Yeah, I think it was. Because wasn't it meant to, like, Clive Sinclair thought they were going to be putting Spectrums in, I think, at one point, and then I don't really know the intricacies, but I know that obviously the micro ended up going in instead. I think that's
very reliable. The micro is so well built. I have got one, but
they are solid.
They are just unbeatable, really.
Sound at keys pressing out, it's lovely.
Oh
yeah.
When you
turn it on, it goes boop bip as well. That sound. Oh,
yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like porn. Anyway.
Okay, so pretty sure my school had an Archimedes, which would later replace for Windows 95. Good grief. The BBC Master, with an A, not an R, had directories on the disk and other places. Very, very good.
Master.
I like it.
Yeah, she writes all her own material. She's really good with that.
Well, what is everyone in here? I would probably say master.
Yeah, I'm master.
Yeah.
Master.
But you're all wrong. That's all there is to it.
I don't know. It's just.
Look, I got in contact with Collins. It's a video. Go watch it.
We'll have to get Susie Dent on to explain it, aren't we? That's what we have to do. Finally, yes. Yeah. Rach says Dragon World. That was it.
I think she means the cabbages, but I don't remember cabbages in Dragon's World.
Or she might have dreamt it then.
I think you dreamt like colouring in cabbage.
Wasn't there an Ice Palace game on the BBC, says Steve? I don't know.
The one we used to play a lot at school, you owned like a tea shop, and like or like it was like
Yes.
a swing van, or it was something like that, and you had to get ingredients for certain stuff and then sell it like and try and make
Yes.
a profit and things like that. That's the one game. I've no idea what it's called. Probably
No.
Teen Shop or something. But it was that was the
You
game.
might not be far wrong, actually. That's
That was what we were playing back in the
reaching
day.
my mind. I remember that one, but yeah, I remember playing that one. BBC was built like a tank, had to be with all the little shit kids.
Exactly. I think that's why it made it. Come on.
There's a few people. I think Master says Rach, which means the same as basket. And then Al says Master as well. Of course, they're both wrong.
East and South. He should be
says
saying it
Master as
right.
well. Yeah, he's got the monocle in, which is obviously the key for it, really. All sorts of text adventures on the BBC. Used to love those. Haynes says we had drug lords and a floppy disk that we used to take in and play on the Windows 95.
Wilton was an amazing game.
Hello, Wilton. Hope you're okay. You're usually playing Fall Guys with us, but as you'll notice, we're doing something slightly different tonight. But now, good to see you here. Hope you're okay.
Like
Sure.
Guys, it's just 5.
Yeah.
5 Guys.
What's that about Fall Guys?
It's like 4 Guys, but this is 5 Guys and talking about.
Oh, very good. Sure. What about yourself? As somebody who still pays for things by postal order, what was your your experiences of 8-bit and 16-bit back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Stu. I started off with a Spectrum. Although saying that, I did start off with a Binatone, the old orange and black Binatone, 2 little paddles, white sticks, little square ball. I mean, back then that was it. That was cutting edge, and it kept us happy for hours. And I my next one was a Spectrum, though. I did know a lot of people with a Spectrum, not so many with a Commodore at the time. It was more of a case of a lot of school kids that I went to school with. They had it.
Al said it's Fall Guys. It's like Fall Guys, but worse.
Everyone's shooting in expecting Fall Guys, and this is what they're getting.
Just get them up. Russ has been playing Fall Guys for months just to get people in.
Not yet.
Hey!
I can't see any comments now. My phone's gone dead. I can't see them.
God, you were saying him, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, back then it was a case of we used to swap games, and we'd bring a blank cassette into school, and somebody'd say, "Oh, I've got Winter Sports. Do you want that?" Yeah. Take me tape, he'd bring it back next day. Yeah.
Trading Stuart.
There were great times. I mean, the thing is, with the 8-bit micro computers, there were a lot of them as well, and there's still a lot of old micros that fell under radar, really, such as Dragon, Oric, MSX, and
MSX. Really
MSX.
It looks so cool. And they've got cartridge games as well.
Yeah.
So is the Master System.
You were spoiled for choice, really, back then. But the Spectrum and the Commodore seemed to be the favourite ones at the time. Regarding Amstrad, I think, from what I can remember, I only really remember one person owning an Amstrad. So that kind of, again, fell under radar. But I found a new love for it. I mean, I got one off yourself, Russ, didn't I? And like Dana says, I think they're cracking computers, really. And like I said, the colour palette, it's far better than Spectrums and Commodores.
Oh yeah.
It's a shame it didn't do as well as it should have done.
Like, graphically, when you look at still pictures, like screenshots of the Amstrad, they're always really impressive, I think. But then it doesn't always run how you want.
No.
I mean, it's like Chase HQ, that one's really well. IK Plus looks beautiful on the Amstrad. But I've not played it, but it looks really nice. But obviously, I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah.
And with the Amstrad, you tended to see them having to squeeze it down into a much smaller screen to get it to run.
Yeah, they did.
Have you seen Paperboy?
Yeah.
Like, that is ridiculous on the Amstrad. It's like that. It's crazy. It's impossible.
Something that'll do the Amstrad justice on YouTube is demos. I'm not talking games, first level of games that you get off cover tapes. I'm on about the demo scene, which were very, very prominent in Amiga. And it were basically bedroom coders or teams of coders showing off the machine's capabilities. And if you get a chance, have a look at some Amstrad demos. They're unbelievable. They really are. Look amazing.
Have you played any homebrew on the Amstrad, Sean?
Not homebrew, no, I haven't yet. No.
Right. There's 2 games that you need. Relentless is absolutely amazing. That's a Sidetronic game for the Amstrad.
Oh yeah.
It's like Tron and R-Type mixed together. Yeah. Like it's a beauty. And this one is Galactic Tomb. There's a sequel to this. Right. This is like about £6 or £7, but you can get the Spanish version for free on a download if you've got like a Div MMC. Right. That's a little bit kind of like Turrican sort of thing. Honestly, yeah. There's some awesome homebrew Amstrad stuff out there. Really is. The cracked scrolling, like the scroll well.
Yeah. Nice. But I know R-Type. They redid R-Type for the Amstrad.
That's right. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, the new one's meant to be really. I've still not played the new one, but it does look really good, mind.
Yeah.
It could be the best one with all the 8-bits, to be fair.
I agree, definitely. It does look amazing.
But did the original one just get ported from the Spectrum?
From Spectrum.
A lot of Amstrad games just got ported straight over, and then they struggled because they weren't programmed for that machine. Like, do you know what I mean? If they just took a bit more time, really.
Yeah. Same could be said though with a lot of games. I know, like the publishers were pushing the programmers. You need to get this out, and I think a lot of games were, a victim of the strict deadlines, and it's only now that people are remaking games and they're showing how it could have been, and it'd have been amazing if some of these remakes, had have been done right in the first place, such as Bomb Jack on Commodore 64. I'll go as far to say it's near arcade perfect, even to the music. Obviously,
Jack.
Yeah,
you look it up.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What,
honestly,
a newer version of it, yeah.
New version, remake.
Oh yeah. I thought about the original for a second. I thought, blimey,
no,
the
original's absolutely rubbish.
The original's terrible.
Wasn't Bomb Jack 2? Wasn't Bomb Jack 2 something like the Thundercats game?
Thundercats.
So random.
It's still got the Thundercats music.
Hey, only a true 8-bit fan knows that, mate. You've passed the test.
I love Thundercats. That would have been awesome.
Oh, the music was all right, but it was on the SID, so.
Yeah. In fact, Bomb Jack 2 on the Commodore were better than Bomb Jack 1.
Wow, well, that's saying something.
Yeah, it is. But yeah.
Okay, lovely, mate. A few more comments in here. Danny H, the Retro Gaming Masters in. Remember playing a darts game on my mate's old Spectrum.
180 maybe.
180 or Jockey Wilson's darts challenge, maybe. One of the in-game characters looked like a horse. I thought about having a $5 each way on it. I think it probably is 180 because that's one of the most famous most popular, well-known darts game on the 8-bit system. Salamander on the Amstrad is the one, says Dana. Rach was a sap that bought Amstrad games with screenshots from another system. Yeah, that always did catch her.
That wasn't it? Yeah. Maybe taken from other systems.
Yeah, it always not the one you've owned, that's for sure. Steve, again, go back to what you said earlier. Amstrad did do very well, best-selling micro in France and Spain, did well in Germany.
Best-selling 8. Oh, sorry, what's going?
Yeah, so best-selling 8-bit 85 to 89 in the UK. The others sold more as they came out 2 to 3 years earlier.
Like,
All right.
if the Amstrad had been released at the same time, 81, 82, then yeah, it would have been right up there. At the end of the day, it's going to affect the amount of systems, because to come into the game a bit late means there's less systems going to be sold, you would imagine, which means less people are going to buy the games, so they're going to make less money. It's all about margins and profit and stuff like that. And that's what it came down to, just due to it being that little bit late, which is a shame. It really is, because I completely agree. If it had come out earlier, I think it would have been supported a lot better. And yeah, it would have done really well.
Yeah.
Keith said the Amstrad. The French love the Amstrad as much as they love the Camembert. That's very true. Very true over there. Amstrad did that well that Sinclair went and bust, and Amstrad bought them, which is again very, very true. Loads of reskin games back in the day, says Steve. Airwolf, hence why the chopper is flying through red brick caves that make no sense. He said Bomb Jack on the C64 of Jean-Michel Jarre's Magnetic Fields in SID form as its in-game tune.
Yeah, so it's a lovely track. It is.
Yeah, Jockey Wilson had a decent darts game on the AB. It was Jockey Wilson's Darts Challenge or something like
Johnny Wilson, there's a name, eh?
yeah.
Drinking beer and smoking fags.
That was when you were real dart players, right? Can't even walk like that.
So that's 8-bit stuff. Go on, nice one. Yep.
I was going to say, like Dana's last comment there, Sean loves his 8-bit music CD. When are you going to do another 8-bit jukebox, Sean? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
I'd give it up. I didn't think nobody were interested.
Who wants Sean to do another 8-bit jukebox? Put a 1 in the comments. Or thumbs up.
So that's 8-bit stuff, folks. What about 16-bit micro memories? Stu, I'll come to you first.
Oh, I have very little experience with the 16-bit micros. I had the Atari ST after I run my course with the Spectrum, got the Spectrum up to the +3 and moved on from that to the Atari ST, and it was to play one game, and that was Championship Manager. And that was it. It was the only game I ever played on it. But to make up for it, this wonderful scene, right, that's hitting at the moment, where we're getting these wonderfully packaged emulators with all the software that you could possibly want to run on it. I'm making up for lost time on that.
Nice one.
Yeah,
the beauty of it. Really cool.
Of course, then this guy here forces you down the line of getting one of these.
Take a snapshot.
Role reversal.
Right. And he forced me down that just purely because he happened to mention that it's only £30 now. So, but yeah, no, I had to pick up this because it's another library of games that I've still to experience properly. Can't say I'm enjoying them all, but I'm getting there with them. It's not quite Spectrum.
What could you say?
Oh, blooming! If Steve's watching, sorry, Steve, I've just blocked you for 5 minutes by mistake. Sorry, mate, I didn't mean to do that. I was aiming for somebody else. Oh, there we go. Sorry, Steve, if you're watching. Sorry, was completely unintentional. Nice 16-bit memories for you.
I don't think I have any, to be fair. I went for a long time just having the Master System. So I didn't go on to like Mega Drive or anything until like playing Friends. I just went on to things like the PlayStation after that. So it's an era I didn't really kind of get into, which is a shame because I kind of missed out that entirely. I'm just trying to catch up now. So that's probably the shortest review ever. What were you expecting?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You might be surprised. Yeah. Sean?
Well, I actually, from like the 8-bits, I moved on to the Amiga. I'd just like to say that I'm interested that Stu got the ST. I never knew anybody that got the ST, and I know there were these computer war between the two, the ST and but fair play to you, Stu. But I went down. Sorry, go on.
I couldn't go down the Commodore line after almost a decade of ZX Spectrum. I just couldn't touch a Commodore machine. It was
But yet, the Atari ST was Jack Tremmel, who used to be in charge of Commodore.
We didn't know that. Yeah, we didn't know that as kids. It was just the name.
I just thought I'd mention it in case you didn't know. But yeah, again, it was a role reversal because loads of people from Atari went to Commodore.
Yeah,
it's mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, I went down the Amiga route, and I think I've mentioned this before, but it took me ages to convince my mum because she had one of these little ones or K's catalogues, and I badgered her for ages. Mum, can I have an Amiga? I run a YTS scheme at this stage, and how can you afford? I will give you it. You better do. And I bugged her to death, and she ended up ordering me an Amiga 500. And one day I got on from my YTS job, and there was this big box sat there, and it was a bloody Amstrad word processor. I'm like, what's that? It's your computer that you ordered. I said, I didn't order that. It was an Amiga. Man, for God's sake. I'm absolutely gutted. She's like, I don't know what you want.
Did you send it back?
She sent it back. Yeah, she did, bless her. She sent it back, and then a few weeks later, I got my trusty Amiga.
Sean, the one thing you want to know is, did you ever actually pay it back?
No, I don't think I did.
Yes.
Oh dear. No,
Russ, we'll be sending a copy of this video to Sean's parents just so they're aware of it. Sorry, Dave. Yes, mate.
No, I didn't know Sean had finished, but thinking about it, I did have some game of time on a 16-bit because there was a time when I had to stay with my uncle and aunt for a few months, and at that time I think they had an Amiga. I don't know which model it was. I was in my early teens, and I was still playing on the Master System and things like that. But I do remember playing on that and the floppy disks on that because that was kind of the first time I played. I think what was the games on that? Double Dragon. I remember playing Double Dragon with my cousin on that with the keyboard, and that was ridiculous because you could grab the opponent and I kept grabbing him, and he got really pissed off with me. He's like, "Stop grabbing me and throwing me across the room." I played what was it? Predator. Predator was on there. That was just dumb. I think you got a video of that, Russ, actually, because I watched it and I was like, this is what I remember. Because you're walking through the jungle and then just the Predator kind of triangle tracking thing comes down and you have to kind of jump to avoid it or something. So I remember that. And Super Hang-On, because for years I couldn't remember the music from it. I just heard it. I was like, hang on a minute. I remember this because I played this on an Amiga back in the day. At least I think it was an Amiga. I'm pretty sure it was. I just thought that was the most amazing thing ever. But I only got to play in it for a few months and then went back to kind of not having it. But that was just kind of a summer of doing that, really. It was very random. But it's amazing these things you remember.
Al said there were some 8-bit games that came with trainers. If only there was a trainer guy here to talk about it. Thanks, Al. Yeah.
Well, they're Nike trainers. Superior trainers there.
Yeah. Mum still calls the C64 the Vic 64. That's quite interesting because Mrs. Bear had a Vic 20, a Commodore 64 board inside a Vic 20 case the other day to look at, which is quite bizarre. I'm not sure how that works out. Keith Mum thinks every system is either a Nintendo or a PlayStation. I used to remember getting shouted at a lot. Turn the bloody computer down, your dad's working nights. My dad said years later he never heard us kids owning my mum telling us to shut up. The ST was basically an Amiga, but with the custom chips, not quite as good, but still a nice machine. That's Steve. Steve, sorry, mate, about that mistake earlier. Nothing intentional. I was going for the link which Dana was trying to click on at the same time. So sorry about that, mate, but thanks for coming back. Yeah, all is forgiven. Paul, 16-bit memories.
So it's quite similar to what Steve was saying. I actually played the Atari ST first, and there was 2 games I played. One was Stunt Car Racer, which I've got to admit is the superior version is on the Atari ST, which is what it was brought out for originally before it was ported to the Amiga. It just runs really well. And there was another one, a kind of, I've never actually looked into this game, but hopefully someone might know what it's called because I'd love to play it. And it was kind of like a cannon fodder sort of game, but rather than men, you were like either airplanes or tanks. You could choose which one you wanted to be like during the game. I think you could be soldiers as well, but it was like isometric. But I remember playing it, but I've got no idea what it's called. And that was the first time I'd ever played on a 16-bit machine, and it was an Atari ST. And I was like, I really, really like this Atari ST. I remember the guy's name, Philly Roth, he was called. He lived just around the corner from me. He was a year younger than me. But yeah, really enjoyed playing the Atari ST. So again, I went back to my mum and dad, and I was like, please get me this Atari ST, you know. And I went on and on and on, and they didn't. They never bought me it. So I was stuck with my Commodore 64. So I made the best of my Commodore 64, and a lot of my friends had Amigas. Like the Amiga started becoming more prominent, and so then I was like, they might have actually done me right, because I ended up waiting, and then after a while I eventually got the Amiga 1200, but I got it on launch. But to be fair, when like I got the Amiga 1200, it was kind of already on its decline. Like really, from when you think the 500 was brought out in what was it, 87, 88, something like that, or was it as late as 89 for the Amiga? It must have been like 88, I'm sure, around about then.
Yeah.
So when I got my 1200, I just had like a wealth of games that I had to play, and all my friends had like loads of copy discs, which a lot of them are games that were older, so they didn't play anymore. So they were just like shelving me like these games. I had hundreds of games to choose from, and then I realized there was some Amiga 1200 games I could play, like Banshee. I adore Banshee. It's one of my favorite. It could be my favorite shooter of all time. Like I know it's got no music in the game, but to be fair, you haven't got time to think about that because you're too busy dying. It's solid, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful game. I love it. So yeah, it was a different sort of game that I was starting to play. I played Degeneration. I played point-and-click adventures like Beneath the Steel Sky, Simon the Sorcerer, Monkey Island 1 and 2, like Indiana Jones. Like these games I absolutely loved. But there was so many different genres as well. You had like the Chaos Engine, which to this day I still think it's some of the best in-game music ever. Like I love the music in the Chaos Engine. But then, like Stuart, I found a Championship Manager. That was what changed completely. It really did. I went round to my friend's house, and I was staying overnight. I remember staying at his, and it was a good job because we decided to do a 2-player game of Championship Manager. Now, when you're going through pre-season, you're buying games, it took us about 6 hours just to get to the actual beginning of the season.
Yeah.
We played this from we finished school. I went to his. I was there for 6. It was booted up by 7, and we played that. This was the Friday night. We played that until Sunday about 5 o'clock, right the way through, and we just finished a season. That's how long it took. It was on the whole time. We didn't turn it off. We didn't save it. We probably did sleep at some point, but I was completely addicted to that game. And then we got the 92, 93 update in the green box. And then we got Championship Manager Italia, which to anyone who plays that, buy Eric Cantona. He's 8.8 million. They'll ask for more, but you can get him for 8.8 million. Buy him first, and he'll score 65 goals in your first season. It's just ridiculous. And because I used to watch, the Italian football on TV, I knew the players, the leagues. So basically, it was the reason why I'm convinced it's why I failed my GCSEs. I genuinely had to reset my GCSEs because when I was upstairs doing my coursework, etc., I was actually playing Championship Manager.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because I did the same thing when I was at university, when I was doing my degree, and I have a lot to thank Championship Manager German edition for the reason I'm working in the job that I do. Because I spent far more time playing that when I should have been doing my dissertation. Not sitting there 3 weeks for my dissertation ago thinking I really should have played Championship Manager a lot less than I did.
I did play other games as well. Like I did try as a Premier Manager. There was a few like that, where you could build your stadium and stuff.
Yeah.
And I like the advertise. Like I wish that Championship Manager brought in the advertising bit and the stadium bit into Championship Manager, and then I think it would have been. I mean, I know they do that now. But, like I wanted to do it at the time.
Premier Manager 2. Ooh,
but yeah, Premier Manager. I've tried it, but I just
No.
I always go back to Championship Manager.
That was the first one I played. That was the first. Actually,
Oh yeah, that was a bit later on, but that took it to the next level.
But Premier Manager 2 was the first one that I played, and I really liked that. Then I got in the Championship Manager, and that was it. I couldn't go back and play Premier Manager. And I agree with what you said there. Everything else, there was World Soccer Manager, I think, on. Yeah, who is that bloke?
I don't know. What a picture,
beautiful, nice
that
example.
would make you want to buy a game, wouldn't it? Jesus.
Yeah. But I played, I think it was World's Ultimate Soccer Manager. That was it on the Amiga that came out. They were talking about that being a great manager. I couldn't get on with it. LMA Manager, I couldn't get on with that. Everything else after that, I couldn't do.
That's what I mean. So I think that's why I kept the Amiga for so long, because eventually when I went on to the PlayStation, well, I went to the PlayStation quite early, but I mean, probably for me the best manager game was LMA Manager. But when you compare that to Championship Manager, it's still like, even though you'd moved on a generation, that actually went backwards for me in terms of football management. And the PlayStation, oh my! If they had done like a decent football manager game, imagine how many people would move from the Amiga to the PlayStation, how many people would have played that game. But they never did for me.
Yeah. Okay, just going to go into the comments. Thank you for that, Paul. Danny says he remembers buying an Amiga from a dentist in Ilford. They sold them everywhere, didn't they? My dad was helping me. I wanted a free private checkup on the street. I was straight doing checkups. What guys sort of jump out from behind a bin or something and grab hold of it?
Underground dentist, Russ.
See anything?
Underground dentist. Anybody ever seen that? The day-to-day skit? What I'm talking about there. Ollie's here, 8-bit boy. Good to see you, mate. Nice to see you in. Dylan's here as well. Pleasure to meet you last week, Dylan. B was very underrated as a game machine. Some of the games that were on it were great. Yep.
Chucky Egg.
Yeah. Chucky Egg. Oh, I like Chucky Egg. Bloody Chucky Egg. Everyone remembers that game. You talk to anybody about old games. The first, oh yeah, I remember Chucky Egg. Yeah, bloody hell. Think of something else. Yeah, no one ever says, thrust or something like that. It's always Chucky bloody Egg.
Yes, it's when you talk about old games and they say something like Wipeout, and you're like, how old are you? Shit, I was mental when it went out.
The first Call of Duty, that's really old.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, I remember when Call of Duty, you couldn't go online with Call of Duty. It was terrible then, Go online. Chaos Engine, what a bloody game, says Keith. Dylan actually points out there's a conversation about games and trainers. There was a computer tech and a pair of Adidas trainers in the 80s, the Adidas Micro Pacer. I bet Steve owns a pair of the original silver ones. If I haven't disconnected him again, he might be able to tell us. Ollie says Championship Manager was a great game. Yeah, I did send him a copy. I think it was 96, 97 or 97, 97. I can't quite remember. Championship Manager beats any coursework any day of the week, says Danny. Yeah, that's it.
Although when I tried to explain that to my dad, he wasn't quite as understanding. Like I said, look, it's a really, really awesome game, Dad. And he's like, son, sort this shit out. And I was like, I know, but I've just signed Ferreira Rosso. He's an awesome player.
Yeah. They got no idea, had they? Now you're off in your own little world, aren't you? That's it, nothing else comes in. Premier Manager 99 is on the PC is the best, says Al. Championship Manager 012 was the bomb. Yeah, that was a pretty good one as well. A lot of people, I think they're still doing updates for that years later because they it's very much regarded as the
Yeah,
pinnacle.
they are. They are. Yeah. That was a PC. It's the PC version, isn't it? That they do the updated. So it's still the game engine, but it's updated like players and.
Yeah. Right, so I always remember the game's BBC Mocker being cronky. I've watched videos of people doing gameplays. I've been dead surprised. Mind you, I only had Granny's Garden and Magic Cabbages as a reference. And Pixel Plug says, "Yeah, good to see you, mate. Ultimate Soccer Manager was decent. I couldn't get on with it because I was expecting it to be like Championship. You ever play Championship Manager? You expect it to be like Championship Manager, and it's not. So, it's if I played it differently, playing the other way around, it might have been a different story.
What system was that on?
That was Amiga.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Sensible World Soccer Manager mode was good, says Steve as well. Yeah, the thing about Ultimate Soccer Manager, I remember when I traded a load of my Mega Drive stuff into electronic boutiques back in the day. And I was trying to trade him my copy of Ultimate Soccer Manager on the Amiga. I said, "You don't take these?" He said, "No." So I took it back home with me again. That was it.
Well,
so that wasn't a great, particularly interesting story, but it was just relevant to the fact of what I was talking about.
If it's still up for grabs, I'll buy it and give it a shot. See what's like.
Oh no, that went years ago, mate. Yeah, down the tip somewhere. It's in landfill or something or other.
Oh, don't say that. That makes me cry.
What it makes me cry. I was the one who chucked it over the side of the thing into the hole. Elite or Starship Command, great games to the BBC. Is Claire? Yep. Right, so we're rapidly approaching. We're getting quite close to the end, and obviously, it's just a bit we'll know a lot about. I was going to try to ask two questions, but I might not get both of them in. So, very, very quickly, homebrew. I know we mentioned this a couple of times.
Quickly.
Well, yeah. We got to try and be a bit quick. Some people may not know what that is. I know we've touched it very, very briefly.
Yes.
I'll start with you, Paul. Just give us a quick overview of homebrew and why it's important as it is, as some of these earlier games were as well.
Homebrew it's a loose term for new games that have come out on systems that are not for sale anymore. So obviously for me, for the 8 bits, the 64, the Spectrum, the Amstrad, homebrew games these days really push the system as far as it can go. For the Commodore 64, you've got a game called Sam's Journey, which I think pushes the system to its absolute max. I'd love to see systems pushed to the max. I love watching videos about games that push the systems to the max, but when you can own them and play them on a system that you love, it makes it really special. When you buy a homebrew game, you kind of get a little bit of nostalgia because you get that feeling when you bought a game as a kid and you sat on the bus, you're on your way home, you're looking at the back of the tape, hoping that the one with the decent screenshots is the one that you're going to be playing. You get that feeling. It's the same excitement that you get loading the game up for the first time, and to be able to do that like 30 years later to a grown man, when you get a tape that can do that, and at the same time, it's physical. You've got the tape. You don't see tapes anymore. You get really good artwork. You can get all sorts of little extras. People put real time and effort into these, and it really shows. And I absolutely love playing homebrew. And as I was saying before, it's the homebrew that's pushed me into the Spectrum and the Amstrad, because I started off obviously on the 64 with homebrew, and then I remembered what the Amstrad and Spectrum's like back in the day. And of course, I thought, I'd love to see what's changed in those worlds for those systems. And I found out that the Spectrum homebrew scene is even bigger than the Commodore 64. Like, it seems a lot more varied with more games. You know, as Stu was saying before, people coding in the bedrooms. I think there's still a little bit of that goes on, and these people get involved in making new games for all systems, and it's yeah, I absolutely love homebrew. I love playing it. I love that feeling you get when you're playing a game for the very first time. And yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. See, I haven't got nostalgia for the Spectrum or the Amstrad. So for me to have that, like, you know, that passion to play because I want to play the new games, it's introduced me to the systems, and I'm playing the old games as well, and it's broadened my horizons.
I mean, the point Steve makes there, have you seen the new Ghosts and Goblins on the Amstrad CPC Plus? Don't think I've ever seen a better 8-bit game. It's near arcade perfect. It's like what you said now. You can now push those old machines better than you could have done back in the day, because you got people creating new software for the old systems, but they're not under any real time constraints. Where back in the day, something like Ghosts and Goblins would the license be purchased, you'd have a release date in mind, you know, possibly the lucrative Christmas market. So coders and programmers are under pressure to get the best damn conversion they can out in time. And as we all know from experience, didn't always turn out to be the best you can get out of it. Now people have a bit more time to experiment with it, for the system a bit better, find ways of making these games closer to what they were originally. You can get good conversions like that. There's a moderator in the chat. You can just deal with that, please, before I ban something else by mistake. Stuart, what about yourself, the homebrew experience?
I have no experience with playing the homebrews. Now, I have been watching Paul and Cy, Ginger Hippie Gaming, and that play the homebrew games, and they're fabulous looking. My problem with them is I'm not nostalgic for those games.
Yeah.
And to go back and play Spectrum games, for me, I want to play the games that I played. And that was quite a library, because I can sit down on Wikipedia, bring up the list of Spectrum games and scroll along on my phone, and I can say played it all for so many games that I don't really... It's not that I don't... I love the fact that they're doing it. I love the fact that people are passionate enough to go in and push the Spectrum. That kind of annoys me as well, that we didn't get that back in the day, but that's another discussion. but yeah, I love that they're doing it, but I've got no nostalgia for it. And for me to go back and play Spectrum games, I want to play the games that I played. It's as simple as that. But I will take part in the challenge, Paul. So
that's exactly what I'm saying. You see, because I've got no nostalgia for the Spectrum or the Amstrad, it was through homebrew that I ended up getting a Spectrum. So that introduced me more to the Specky. So for me, it's worked the other way, because I wanted to play those homebrew games, and now I've got a Specky. I love my Specky.
So you should.
I think Rachel's made a really good point here. It's like the whole business of looking in the manual 10 times to check the instruction. When I played old games recently on the 64, if I'm stuck anywhere, I'm not even sure about it. I'm going back in the instructions. I mean, look, nowadays games come with tutorials. You have to do a tutorial first before you go into it, which is you learn the basics. It's not quite the same. I don't know. It's just one of those old nostalgic feelings that you get. Bought a couple of job lots with some absolute cack in them, but she still loves the covers and the blab inside. And again, the artwork on these old games was absolutely fantastic. It turns out she lived near the old Ocean office. Wow. There we go. Ocean Software. Blast in the past.
Yeah, that was
yeah. Nathan, you got any experience with homebrew or anything along those lines?
So I don't own any, and I haven't played any. I'll confess to that, but I do think it's an amazing labour of love that people who've actually put all the effort into making these old games, because they're obviously the enthusiasts who grew up with these systems, now become adults, now seeing the system like at its end, but still want to enjoy it and still want to code games onto it. And I think that's pretty amazing that, you know, people have the dedication and the passion to do that and to release these games to the public, because like Paul said, you know, these are old systems. These are systems they don't make games for. These are systems that are mainly forgotten about by the younger generation. But for us who kind of experienced them back in the day, a new game being released on one of those old systems is just amazing. And, you know, there's probably I've seen some on NES, but I don't know if there's any for Spectrum or any of the other ones where they actually show you kind of making the games and what kind of goes into it and kind of level of effort. And even to kind of, putting it on cassette, releasing it with artwork, that's amazing. That's a level of dedication that you just don't see in modern games to like go through and do all that. I probably do need to get some. I'm more with some of my systems at the moment getting kind of Everdrives and things like that. So I don't know if some of these games, although I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, are they downloadable so you can actually put them on and play?
Have you got a BBC Micro? Because I know you
have got a BBC Micro.
So I'm pretty sure that there's homebrew for the BBC Micro, and I'm pretty sure it's quite impressive. Ginger Hippie Gaming, Sai, I'm pretty sure he's shown me some that he's bought, and some of them are really, really good. Really do.
I don't have a data recorder with mine is the only problem. So I think my games come through kind of chip I have underneath it. So probably need a data recorder and the file, but you can probably download the kind of
you
can actually like run it through a smartphone and actually do it that way, which is ridiculous that you can do that. Really, it's
like normally when you download, when you buy like a physical, you get an email with a link to the digital download as well, so you can choose between the two.
Yeah, because you can just play them from your phone now. You don't have to have a cassette. You can just have one of those cassette things you had for your car back in the day and just put that in or whatever. If you really want to go old school. But I do think it's amazing the amount of effort, and the love obviously shows through for people who've had them back in the day to be able to do that. But I haven't experienced any myself. But that's something I probably need to put right.
Okay, mate. So welcome to Sean. Very, very quickly. Comment from 20th Century Gaming. Good to see you here, my friend. Somebody who is very much in the subject matter of the evening. Just been playing Specky Scuba Dives. Great game. I've grown to love homebrew games. Solus 1 and 2 got me into them, and love Trevor Story's artwork. Great to see you here, mate. Thank you very much indeed for popping in and joining that.
Scuba
Sean,
Dive, is that Scuba Dive, is that the Jurel game? Is he on about that one?
I think it might be one of the.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I don't know.
Commodore 64 streams, so it might be. It's probably on the spec of the Commodore 64.
Yeah. So Sean, homebrew, your experiences, because I know you played a little bit, haven't you? So. Yeah.
Like Paul, I love the homebrew scene. It's like a breath of fresh air for the whatever system it is, because it's giving you new games. I've only really delved into the Commodore side of it, and that's with Cytronic software, and I've got a few games from them. I haven't played all of them quite yet, which I do intend to at some point. But the ones I have played, I'm really impressed with. And I think what's happened is, programmers have learnt new techniques for the systems, and like Paul says, they know how to push the system further than programmers did back in the 80s and that. So they're releasing exceptional games which look fantastic, some of them, and like I said earlier, sometimes you look at them and you think that can't be coming from that system, surely not. But it is, because programming techniques and that have advanced. Right. But yeah, I think it's great, and and I'll carry on collecting. One thing that has impressed me, and it's a Spectre, it's that driving game, Paul. I can't remember the name of it. It's like the old car. Yes.
Oh, really?
Absolutely brilliant.
Oh yeah, I thought you were saying it was that good. I was going to say I love it. Yeah. For me, like when I made the video about it, and I thought it could possibly be the best Spectrum driving game ever. Yeah, wow. That probably wasn't the best thing to say.
Well, for me, phenomenal. I was blown away by it, and it's. I mean, I love the cutscenes as well. The story to it. Have you driving so smooth.
When it goes to the house, back to the beginning, when you go through the years, have you noticed that the trees grow because it's traveling? You're going through time.
I've never noticed that.
Like the trees grow and the house becomes a bit more decrepit and stuff. It just shows
little details.
That's Zosia. Obviously, unfortunately, the game's not available now because of what's happening in, overseas,
yeah.
etc. But they are doing some amazing homebrew. Like, it's truly stunning. It really is. Yeah.
Have you seen that, Stu?
I've only
That
seen
game.
Paul's video on it, but
Yeah.
it looks fantastic. It really
It does,
does.
doesn't it?
It's another game. If you go to the site, it's a free download. So if you've got like
Alright.
MMX for your Specky, you can just download it for free and
Right.
get it on. Honestly, if you've got one, Stu, I've got the file I can send you. It's definitely worth it.
If you've guys got any links that you want to put in the chat at all for homebrew stuff that you can recommend for people, that might be a good idea if you want to type anything in or such. If you remember anything, or if you just want to mention a few.
For me, we've got a Facebook group, 8-bit micros homebrew, and the top post there's about 15 to 20 different sites where you can buy homebrew games for all the micros. Yeah, so I would go on Facebook and just look for that. The group's been going about a year, and I think what, 600 or 700 like people who participate, etc. And it's all homebrew for the micros. So
what was the link, Paul? I'll see if I can find it.
Sorry,
what was the name of the group? Sorry, I'll see if I can find it.
It's 8-bit micros homebrew, I think.
Okay.
It wouldn't be the first time I give out bad information. You
post an RXYZ link all the time.
Just while they're doing that, there seems to be some sort of a tNb post podcast after party if anyone's interested. So, in the meantime, hang on. Paul's got this here: 8-bit micros homebrew. There we go. 8-bit micros with an apostrophe S homebrew.
So yeah, there's loads of links on there to where you can buy homebrew games, and they're definitely. I think it's the future is 8-bit. I'm pretty sure that they do BBC stuff.
There we go. Nice got us a link on the screen, so I'll leave that there for the moment.
Cheers.
If I'll just take it down for a second. Right. So the final question I'm going to ask you is for the without mentioning any names, but for the uninitiated out there who've got absolutely no interest in this subject whatsoever, can you possibly, starting with Stu, we've talked fondly about this particular 8 and 16-bit micro. If there's one thing that you could recommend to people, or one thing that you would say you need to go back and examine this area or try something, is there one thing that you could recommend to people? Say, go and do that, go and try that.
If we're talking about games for someone with no experience in it, that
Can be anything. Yeah.
That's really difficult, because although in my opinion games since the 80s haven't changed up until now, they've just got better looking, bigger. What game would I recommend it? Honestly, I couldn't recommend anyone to go back and play 8-bit micro games now that doesn't have the experience of them. I've tried to get my kids into them, and they'll dip in for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and they're far too hard. So that's probably what I would say to people. Go back and play the 8-bit micro games to see if you actually can play video games, because back then it was stripped bare. It was the game mechanics that you had to master, and if you think you're good at video games, go back and play 8-bit micro games and see if you actually are good at them.
Get good.
Yeah, you
Get
had
good,
to get.
kids.
You think Dark Souls is hard? You go back and play Manic Miner. Simple as that.
Exactly right.
So yeah, if you think you're a gamer and you've never played 8-bit micro games, go back and play, then come back and tell me that you're a gamer.
You're saying something about Jet Set Willy, because that had a built-in bug which nobody could finish it. You had to actually put a poke in to actually finish it. So it's harder than Dark Souls because it was impossible, basically.
Sean, same question to you.
I'd suggest to people who's never delved into 8-bit, just to do it, just to load up a game and have the frustration of waiting so long to see if it actually loads. And yeah, you'll appreciate just how much better it is with a disc, or just the download loads up pretty much instant. It was part and parcel of the 8-bit days. It has to be. It has to be experienced.
Nath?
So yeah, I'm like Stuart. I don't know if I can recommend any particular game to people to go back. There's plenty of iconic games, and if you do a Google search, you'll find like all of them. But the joy of those systems was in the patience, like getting the game to load, to play in there. But modern gamers, they won't have that. Everything's touchscreen. Everything has to be instant. You don't wait for a game to load up. And when you jump on Manic Miner, you jump so far and then just drop like a stone and something touches you. That's it. You start again. You do that 3 times, it's game over. Frustrating as hell. I think Dark Souls is probably a good comparison to it, but it's 8-bit Dark Souls, isn't it? But I don't know. You can play the Horus games if you want to see an absolute rip-off and a really quick-to-load game. They will load in about 2 minutes compared to some of them would load in maybe about 10 if they do. But there's so many ways to do it now. I mean, you can, if the tapes don't work, you can get like a way of playing it through your phone into the system. You can get, Future is 8-bit, that was mentioned earlier. You can get carts that plug into the back that have like an SD card that have the whole catalog of games on, so you can just press the button and it will just flash it to the system's RAM, so you can do it that way if you have the money to buy one. But that detracts from the fun. The fun was the waiting for it to load, the jail bars, the loading bars, things like that. That's just that's the nostalgia, that's the joy of it for us, and it's a different generation really. So if you want to experience it, that's the way to do it. Just
the Spectrum loading sound as well, Nathan.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It's music, isn't it? Music to your ears.
It's like listening to birds song, isn't it? It's so relaxing. There's no better sound in the world, except maybe the dial-up internet loading. That was beautiful as well. It's quite erotic. Yeah, so just do that. Just any old game, just load it up, see if it plays, and just have fun with it. Really, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. But 20th Century Gamer makes a great point here. I would introduce them to a joystick with their hands and face off their foot. Yeah. Played a few games like that. I thought one the other day. I thought
terrible this
I remember playing with a mate of mine. He put his keyboard on. I thought, what have you done that for? So I'm going to use spacebar. I think it might have been Commando on the 64. And I'm going to press spacebar for the grenades, but I'm using the joystick, so I'll use my foot. And I was like, well,
do they even make joysticks anymore? Like proper joysticks?
Yeah.
Well, they remaking for us.
They kind of make them specifically for what you want, but you can get
no, I didn't mean like in the kind of retro homebrew scene. Like they don't make that kind of stuff anymore. Unless enthusiasts that make them. We're like, this is the best thing ever. It's 3D printed.
Maybe in China. I don't know.
Make everything in China. You can't say that.
This tNb post-party, after-party sounds interesting, so I'll need to find some clothes. So, yeah, there you go. Things are hotting up. I'm going to come to Paul last, because I'm leaving the last word because it's his subject. I just want to add to that I think, if you are a gamer of whatever age, whether you grew up with these systems or not, you owe it to yourself to go back and at least experience what games used to be like. You might not like it. I can't guarantee you're going to like it. And most people will turn around and say they don't like it, or they're flat out refuse to do it. But if you're a gamer now, you deserve to go back through history and experience what games were like when like most of us, not Nate because he's a little bit younger than us, but when most of us were of this era to play those games properly on those systems. If you can play them on those systems, even better. But you just owe it to yourself to try it. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, fair enough. But don't dismiss it out of hand. At least try it once. Like all things in life, everything at least deserves to try something once. If you don't like it, you walk away from it, don't you? Paul, the last word for yourself then, mate.
So there's 2 games I would say that I would want people to give a try from the original games back in the day. And one, I always think a 2-player game, no matter how good or bad the graphics are, a 2-player game, 1 against 1, always gets people up for it because nobody likes to lose against their mate. That would be Spy versus Spy. I think Spy versus Spy is a 2-player. It doesn't matter that the graphics are not as good as what they are now. You still want to put that trap above the door so when they open the door and it kills your mate and you're like, yes, do you know what I mean? When you're running for that plane to take off at the end and you beat your mate and then it's like, right, okay, let's do it again because now and you've kind of got that little thing where you bounce off each other. So 100% I'd always go with the 2-player game first because people love no better than to beat the mate that they're sitting next to. If it was a single player, the one game that I think back in the day that pushed the Commodore 64 was Turrican 2, and I would say play Turrican 2 because even these days, if you get like a side-on view shooter platformer, if you updated the graphics, Turrican 2 would be just as good as what they are. I just think it's an awesome game, and yeah, the graphics are not great compared to what's around nowadays, but it's still a class game. So I would say Turrican.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. I will get just a couple of comments here before we finish off because we've just gone past the 2 hours. Danny says the older games we had to learn we went along with no instructions at all. Imagine a youngster playing Shadowgate without a guide. And I'm going to give Rach the last word from the chat because she's contributed quite a lot tonight. I asked people on the group in Discord, does anyone like 8-bit? Somebody said yes. I asked what system, and they said Steam. I didn't know what to say. And as Nay says, Steam, oh my God, they should be shot. There we go.
No trial, just straight in the face.
That's it. Yeah. Didn't even think about it. There we go. Yeah. Very, very quick. 20th century game. I would say Thrust, a game that has hardly any sound, basic graphics, but meaningful playability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm agree with that.
Yeah. There we go.
What a title.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? Well, judging by what's going on with the after party, it could be very, very interesting. A lot of thrusting and nudity going on there. So if you fancy that, get in contact with Big Game Al, he's your man, and he'll sort you out. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your contributions this evening and coming on and doing this. It's been really interesting. I hope that we've pointed out to people out there who may not be familiar with this area of gaming that it's something that's worth go back and trying, and your passion and knowledge and experiences have gone to help that. And I'd like to thank everybody in the chat for joining in and contributing as well. It's been brilliant. Thanks very much indeed to our usual panelists from the tNb, Nathan, Sean. Nate, thanks very much for coming in. I know you were hoping to make it for a bit, and I'm glad you were here, even though your internet dropped out again.
Standard, isn't it?
That's it. Sean, as always, thank you very much. But a massive thank you to our 2 guests tonight. Generation Pixel, Stu, thank you very much indeed, mate. It's been a pleasure having you once again. And also to Paul, who brought the subject, Paul Retrobate, who brought the subject up tonight. Pleasure to have you on, mate, and I hope we'll have you back here again sometime soon.
It's been really good fun. As you can tell, I don't get to unload all of my talk onto people very much. So this is like the chance I really get to talk about 8-bit and 16-bit and retro because nobody I know really speaks about it. So yeah, that'll do me.
Lovely. Right, I will drop
mate, we love it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, I'll drop you all backstage, and I'll chat to you again in a few moments' time. We'll give everybody a wave as you go. There we go. There they go into the distance. Everybody does that. I ask them that every single time. Everybody does it. No one says, no, I'm not doing that. Rach says, it's been brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Just going to undress for the after party. There we go. And I'll leave that on screen because you might want to go and join the fun on the StreamYard with Alan, Steve, and Rach a bit later on. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight on this very, very special Saturday stream. Been a good subject to talk about, something that I know a fair bit about, and our guests have been really good. Brilliant chat tonight as always. Steve, I'm really sorry for banning you again by mistake. I must take a bit more care and attention with that. We are back on the 14th of August for our next one, back on the Sunday slot as usual. Also, as well, I should just see if I put this tick across the box. I keep forgetting. We're looking for guests for the 8th or the 22nd of October. If you do fancy coming on, there's my email address there, retrobear1975@gmail.com. If you do fancy coming on, drop me a line, and anything you want to talk about, run it past me, and I'll check with the lads and see if we can pull a panel together. But yeah, so we're booked up through August and through September now. So that's great. And yeah, if you fancy coming on in October, give us a shout. It'd be a pleasure to hear from you. And hopefully we can sort something out. In the meantime, hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Come on the Lionesses. We'll get behind the England team tomorrow afternoon. 5 o'clock kick-off, don't forget. Not in the evening, 5 o'clock. We wish them the very best of luck. And I'll be talking to you again on the 14th of August with our next guest and our next subject. But until then, on behalf of everybody here this evening, thank you very much indeed for watching, and we'll catch you again very, very soon. But until then, take care and bye for now.